What's going on? This is the OG Kickoff, a Double Down and Next Round media production. I am Connor O'Gara. Will, I really hope that perhaps the most decorated returning player in the SEC doesn't miss the season after getting shot at a concert. Ahmaud Hardy, not the news we wanted on Monday.
Connor, this is how bonkers Monday was. I awoke to a notification of Ahmaud Hardy being shot, and I went back to sleep, and I woke up, and I thought I dreamed about it. And then later on, I was like talking to you about something else. I was like, did Ahmaud Hardy get shot today? It feels like that just fell under the radar.
Yeah, that is one of those things. You're like, wait a minute, no, I didn't dream that. That actually that happened. Yes, not exactly the news that any of us expected to see on a Monday morning. But the good news is that Pete Thamel reported that Ahmaud Hardy, who again was 2006 Darren McFadden levels of production last year in terms of rushing yards. Arkansas fans, don't get mad. I'm not saying he was quite as good, but the production was like pretty similar. He left the hospital on Tuesday, is rehabbing in hopes of playing this season. I wouldn't bet against him. I will instead say that I hope that Ahmaud Hardy runs out to many men, a la Brian Robinson. Just a little hat tip to him. If that happens, we're cooking with gas. But man, I saw that, and obviously we don't know what we can't necessarily assume anything. I mean, Ricky Pearsall, his whole rookie year after getting shot, albeit in a different part of his body, was like, it was a mess. And it was, hey, what can you actually expect of this guy? So I don't want to assume anything when it comes to this with Ahmaud Hardy, but goodness gracious, man, like brutal development for someone that was really looking forward to seeing play this year. And I hope he's still going to be able to play.
I'm sorry, you just once again reminded me, Ricky Pearsall got shot. I don't know. Is there an uptick in this? There's the Ogburn running back as well. Like, I feel like this has been happening lately. I don't know if it's probably just like not correlation and causation, but just absolute prayers go out to this guy. It sucks. Like you said, he was a guy that was one of the favorite players going into the year for the pod. And I just hope he gets better as a human overall.
Yeah. And just one of those things that we will update if the situation warrants it. And it doesn't I wouldn't expect Mizzou to say anything definitive on his progress, but yeah, Ahmaud Hardy is right now very much TBD on what it's going to look like for him. Again, not betting against that dude. Would not bet against that dude. Runs through contact as well as anybody in college football, but man, this is a different beast. So that happened Monday. And oh, by the way, this is Take Shots at Ole Miss week, Will, because goodness gracious, man, we got to talk about this. We have a great pod today. Oh, by the way, new Kentucky coach Will Stein coming up. We have Lad of the Week as well. A very loaded podcast. But man, if you had a vendetta against Ole Miss, this was the week to get it out. I know it was like the roast of Kevin Hart on Netflix, and that was what everybody was talking about. This is the roast of Ole Miss this week, apparently, because whether you were Lane Kiffin or Steve Sarkisian or John Summerall, probably a whole bunch of Mississippi State fans as well, just because why not join in on the fun? They said, you know what, Ole Miss, you're just going to be put up on a tee this week, and we're going to just take aim at you. Enjoy.
Yeah, what a funny thing to kind of see, knowing that Lane Kiffin had posed for the pictures and everybody was kind of clowning him for that early. And I talked about this with you off air, but I mean, Lane's game as a troll, man, is just so undefeated. That was about the only thing he could have said as far as like the racial prejudice line that would have gotten people to actually talk about what he said versus piling on him again. And so this guy is an artist at the art of trolling, and you just got to give him credit there. I know even LSU fans are getting annoyed by him, and I really do get that because, boy, he tweets a lot. But at the same time, it's gripping. It's riveting.
So for those who somehow missed this story, the anticipated Vanity Fair piece on Lane Kiffin came out. And I say anticipated because you're right. LSU was teasing it 2 weeks ago, the photo shoot. And everybody's like, Lane Kiffin's going to be in Vanity Fair? Of course he is. And in explaining okay, let me back up a second. Vanity Fair, obviously, they need to get something out of this story. And I'm not saying this is like a clickbait thing, but this is what you do. If you're going to spend all day somewhere and a lot of time and energy and resources go into a story, you need to make sure that story is going to pop, especially if it's one that's behind, the Vanity Fair subscription model or whatever. You have to sign up for a free trial to be able to read access to it, whatever. You're trying to get people to want to read this story and care about it and not just have it be buried. I get it from that standpoint, from a journalistic viewpoint. But the tweet that they use to promote this story is this. In explaining his decision to leave Ole Miss for LSU, Lane Kiffin seems willing to invoke that Ole Miss has struggled to distance itself from symbols like the Confederate flag, Colonel Rebel, and the nickname Ole Miss itself. Yeah, when he was coaching there, Kiffin says top recruits would tell him, "Hey, coach, we really like you, but my grandparents aren't letting me move to Oxford, Mississippi. That doesn't come up when you say Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Parents were sitting here this weekend saying the campus's diversity feels so great. It feels like there's no segregation." Well, there's a lot to unpack with a quote like that. And yes, Lane Kiffin admitted to On Three, I don't know if that's the right verb, but said to On Three a day later that he apologized for how this came across and that it was part of a 4-hour interview and blah blah blah. One thing that Will and I are not going to do here today is get into a debate about like which SEC school is the most problematic pass. Can we, before we just open this discussion up, like the internet's done enough of that. Can we not necessarily do that today? We have to provide context, and we will. I promise. We're not ignoring that, but let's not make that the focus of today's discussion.
Yeah, it's lazy, and ultimately, who wins is everyone outside of the conference. If we just sit here pointing fingers at each other.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, everybody's pointed out the origins of LSU's mascot and why Tiger is the mascot, and like, the percentage of black students on campus and retention rates and all of this stuff. Look, we will not be converting anyone's opinions on rewriting history here. Okay, so like, I'm not going to attempt to do any of that. But here's the irony in all this: that same tweet had the tagline, not the headline, but the tagline: Lane Kiffin doesn't care if you hate him. $91 million feels just fine. Thanks. That loaded tweet and that tagline totally contradict each other. 100%. By saying that a lack of racial diversity and that the problematic history of Ole Miss was why he left for LSU, he is not, in fact, saying, yeah, I got more money at a place that I feel like has a higher ceiling. That's not what he's saying. Like, those two things are kind of polar opposite here. Lane wants you to know that he faced historical hurdles, and he wants you to say, hey, Lane's winning the breakup. He wants to win the breakup badly. He does. You do not say those things unless you have some animosity, okay? You just don't. And Lane does, after the way that it played out with Keith Carter, not letting him coach in the playoff for a team that was 20 seconds away from winning a national championship. And if you're telling yourself like, oh, hey, this is just like the type of thing that comes out over the course of a 4-hour interview in the way that Kiffin described, then tell me this. Last year, when Ryan McGee spends all that time with Lane Kiffin for Many Lives of Lane Kiffin for the East 60 doc, do you think at any point Lane brought up the recruiting historical hurdles and how that he's had phone conversations with people that have been like, my grandma doesn't want me to go to Ole Miss? Do you think that was brought up at any point? And for those saying like, no, that wasn't brought up, why do you think it wouldn't be brought up? Because it'd be terrible for recruiting. Why do you think it gets brought up now? Because it's better for recruiting and because he's not there anymore. So that piece in itself, just keep that in the back of your mind as you process everything that Lane has to say on this.
Yeah, and the quote that was circulated is one that I remember vividly. Lane Kiffin at SEC Media Days this year talking about the people in Oxford and the community, and how every step of his growth has been related to a different facet of Oxford and how special his people are. So yeah, I mean, he is definitely talking out of both sides of his neck here.
Well, even if we just focus on the first part of the quote, it's a bad look. And the quote kind of gets like progressively like more and more, I don't want to say damning, but it does feel calculated. It just does.
And then he had the follow-up where he's like, hey, didn't mean to paint them in the bad light. Love them. Don't take it even away, though. Bye.
Yeah, basically. Do I think Kiffin probably had some of those conversations with recruits and their grandparents saying that they don't want them going to Ole Miss? Yeah. That wouldn't surprise me. I honestly don't think Kiffin is going full Jim McElwain with this and just making up something that's really serious just to get sympathy for his struggle. I don't think that's actually what's happening within the context of that part of that quote. I'm not going to call him a liar for that. Okay. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, Lane totally made that up. It would not surprise me if he had those conversations. I don't even like saying rebels. If you've listened to this podcast, I don't know that I've said the word rebels when describing Ole Miss or referring to them. I stopped writing it in 2020 with SDS just because it felt weird. So like, I'm not just going to dismiss like the notion that at some point during the thousands of conversations that Lane had recruiting kids to try and come to Ole Miss, that subject came up.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it is kind of a masterful troll job, because there is truth to it. right? And like, I'm a guy, hey, say what you will in the reviews or whatever. I'm Southern through and through, right? I grew up in
Sick brag.
I grew up in Louisiana, Alabama, Pensacola, Florida, which is basically Alabama. You know, hearing a lot of the things about the romanticization of the antebellum South and the Confederacy. Okay, I get the whole like culture versus all this different stuff, but the bottom line is, guys, Connor, I have a trivia question for you. You ready?
Oh boy, what do I get if I get this right?
My respect. Yankee of the day.
I'll take that. Okay.
How many teams at the college or pro level in America go by the name Rebels?
I'm going to say you're including minor league baseball, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to say, let me crunch the numbers. I'm going to say it's 1.
2.
Okay.
Ole Miss, UNLV, Running Rebels.
Oh,
now,
yeah, that's okay. That's an obvious miss.
That was
that's
actually very funny. It's a troll thing, and like I had UNLV fans. I do my bit about the Confederacy every year when LSU plays Ole Miss, so that's my fandom. I got to check at the door. I think the Confederacy are losers. I think the Confederacy lasted longer, or sorry, Stetson Bennett's career at Georgia lasted longer than the Confederacy, and we've been idolizing this group of people that were fundamentally insurgents against America for 60 years. I think it's loser mentality. Because I love America, fundamentally. I love the place that I was born, which is Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I love the country that I grew up in, which is America. I don't really support anything that is against America. I have always said Ole Miss was a case of having your cake and eating it too, right? Which is you want to keep the Rebels name. We got to drag you kicking and screaming away from Colonel Reb, who was a plantation owner. You want to go by Ole Miss, which was the name of a Southern plantation owner. And then you want to just go, well, I don't know why anyone says any of this stuff about us. We could take not just Lane Kiffin, but former Ole Miss coach Tommy Tuberville, who did say this when he was at Ole Miss. His quote was, "It's hard to recruit against the Confederate flag," right? And so, like that being said, Tommy Tuberville, famed Democrat, was at the time when he was at Ole Miss in the 90s saying, please don't take those Confederate flags to the game. They make black people feel uneasy because they're about, slavery, racism. It is what it is, right? And the mascot is not a states' rights enjoyer, a tax-exempt fella. It is a plantation owner. So if you want to stick with that imagery, do it with your whole chest. Don't sit there and say, I don't know why you're taking this stance on Ole Miss specifically, because that is one thing I have heard from my black friends coming up in the South, that imagery and the ties to the Confederacy are hard to get over. And I'm sure players have said it too. So it is, again, imperfect messenger. Very interesting message here, Connor.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that nobody wants to hear that from Lane, especially not as a main reason of why he left a job that by all accounts loved and called home for 6 years. Again, we saw the many lives of Lane Kiffin. We saw Lane Kiffin year after year, week after week, get up on the podium and talk about how much he loves Oxford. And he would he was considering making it his forever home. If segregation and a lack of racial diversity were such an ongoing problem in Oxford, why then did Kiffin speak ad nauseum about how he finally felt like this was his place? If segregation and a lack of racial diversity were such an ongoing problem in Oxford, then why wasn't he taking steps to address that after 2020, after Black Lives Matter, and after all these different things? Because you're not hearing Kiffin talk about that in 2023 and 2024. And if you tell me, Connor, hey, that's not his job is to coach football games. Yes, I get that. His job is not to be, as Van Lathan said, Martin Luther Kiffin. All right, I get that. Except for the fact that Lane is saying in this Vanity Fair piece that racial issues were limiting his ability to recruit players to win football games. So what are we doing? Like, if Lane says this while he's at Ole Miss, it's received in a totally different way. If he says this in 2023, 2024, at like a look inward and like, guys, like I think there are things we can do on this campus to be better. Like I feel like, there are still some things that we need to be able to overcome as a university. Like I have conversations with people that I'm trying to get to this school, and this is still like a stigma that hangs over the university. Like how can we better? If he addresses it that way, not received like this at all. Not
and what's interesting? I would say that same measure of cowardice was in that way displayed by Lane Kiffin, because you can see that under him they pushed towards the powdered blues. They pushed away from using the Rebels and looking like Confederate soldiers to the point
pushing
where it was
towards Land Shark Tony.
Exactly.
The greatest mascot in college football. We all agree.
But it's like he was making up juice and the dunking board to talk about anything but the Rebels. He knew, and his actions showed that, but he didn't have the courage to say it with his whole chest. So he becomes part of this machine that I just talked about, where we don't want to come out and address it because we might hurt people's feelings.
Yeah, like if the highest paid employee in the state of Mississippi comes out and says, "Hey, we need to change. This is a problem, and let's just address this head on. Let's not try and like do things to cover this up, or hey, this is who we are now, and this marketing pitch, that marketing pitch. Like, just address the issue head on and just say this is still hanging over us." Like that is received just so much differently than going, yeah, this new place that I'm at, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, not sure if you've ever heard of it. It doesn't have segregation like the place where I just came from. Because instead, this comes off as Lane just continuing to try and win the breakup by any means necessary. Okay, that's the way that this comes across. And for what it's worth, I don't think he's currently winning that battle. We used to say on the show all the time, it doesn't feel like Lane takes L's. Like even when he says, "Get your popcorn ready," he has some fun with it. And it's like, oh, it's like silly little thing that Lane Kiffin said after he gets whipped by before he gets whipped by Alabama. And then, everybody's able to kind of make fun of it and he just moves on. No. You don't get to do that anymore. You don't get to do that after the decision that you made and the way that you went about that decision. That's the biggest thing. We will probably change our opinion on who's winning the breakup based on how a football game plays out on September 19th. Not sure if you've heard about that. And the course of the next few years will obviously, they're going to probably dictate how we feel about this. But I think Lane attempted to try and make it look like I did everything I could. And he made a comment that just backfired in a pretty awful way. And there's really he doesn't come out and make that statement on 3 if he doesn't feel a little bit of like, whoa, this did not work in the way that I like. Maybe he hoped it would work some way, but clearly he totally misjudged how this was going to be perceived.
I mean, do you think so though? Do you think he would take it back if he could?
I can't say that definitively. You're right. Like this is a nothing story if he just says to Vanity Fair what he said to On 3 about why he left Ole Miss for LSU. And that quote, which he gave to Wilson Alexander, was, "It'll show in year 2, year 3. It's going to show that we have the same systems. We have all this stuff, and we brought it here and combine it with the branding of LSU and ability to sign and lead high school players. That will show. It may not be next year, but this wasn't a one-year decision." Okay. Does anybody push back on that? Is that even an Ole Miss fan would look at that and go, "Yeah, all right, yeah, okay."
You know what's funny about that statement is it's kind of him slow playing that Ole Miss is going to be better than them this year.
He's at least leaving the door open. Yeah, I mean, sure. It'd be weird if he said, I think we have a better roster than the one that I left. Yeah, and you don't need to say that. And I think that there's truth in that. I think there's truth in what Lane is saying, and that it's not just a one-year deal. And even if they lose that game on September 19th, which, oh, by the way, is going to be played at nights, and the fine folks of the Oxford Police Department couldn't be more excited. Even if they lose that game, there's still probably going to be an ongoing discussion about that. So all that happened. And Will, before we get to the other part of Ole Miss Hate Week, did you have any more thoughts on Lane and this head-scratching decision to go there?
Yeah, I think my overall take is, and again, I'm a guy who's believed this through and through. Sometimes it's my fault. Stand on business. If you're going to say it, stand on it. I actually more so disagree with the come back around and try to make yourself lessen the blow and increase the PR. And then, like I said, to say year 2 and 3 where you're kind of backing away from it, like, you started the fire, right? In the office, right? It started the fire. You're right. You put the cheese pita in there. You got to take ownership for that. You can't just, what happened? I don't know. And so I think that's what people need to do on this topic. That is one kind of joke that I've had over time, is to directly ask people in the Ole Miss community, do you stand by this or do you not? And the amount of people that have given me a real answer on that is very low because, again, they know. And so I think that enables the world that we're living in. And so while I would like to give Lane credit as some champion for social justice here, I think he's just stirring the pot, because when he's been given the opportunities to actually stand on business, to your point, at Ole Miss, or even as recently as now, to say, hey, actually, I do believe this, and actually, my bad for not coming out and say it earlier, but it's something that's important to me, and to stand on that business. But what we end up doing instead is just throwing a grenade and walking away. And if you're going to be a person who calls out serious issues like that, you got to do it with your whole chest. You can't half step.
Yeah, and that's really what this all comes down to. Is it does feel like a half step, and doesn't feel like something that was brought up to try and inspire change. It's brought up as a move to show like, oh, that's just the situation that I was in. And if you're an LSU fan, you want to defend him, like I get it. He's your guy now. But I mean, let's be realistic. Let's be realistic about all the elements of this, not pretend like it's that definitive thing, and that's a totally perfect, like it's a totally acceptable comment to make. So
And I do want to say really quick too. I know people are going to listen to this. Oh, this of course LSU fan. I understand the problematic things that are happening in Louisiana right now. I understand the new motion about adding some Confederate statues back. I understand the weird things that are going on with that election being suspended. So I'm not sitting here on the side of, well, Louisiana is just this racial Wakanda metropolis that's perfect. Like that's not it. It is a nuanced take, and I hate it when we take these complex issues and reduce them down to just screaming at each other. Like no one's doing any of this stuff perfectly. It all should be a learning experience where we get better every year.
yeah, I don't want to hear oh, we're not racist because of this. It's like that's not really the point of why we're talking about this. And I get like why why he invokes that type of reaction. But yeah, I think it was just a bad look. Just bad look all around. So also a bad look, Will. The other part of Ole Miss Hate Week, second and third part of this came from John Summerall. Our guy Matt Hayes paid a visit to Sark in Austin. I've got Will busting laughing already.
I mean, this was so unnecessary. Like the Lane Kiffin Hotep memes were like very funny, but Sark out of nowhere just being like, you know who needs to weigh in on privilege here?
Yeah.
Steve Sarkisian of the University of Texas.
So the lightning rod quote for USA Today, the story that came out on Tuesday was, at Texas, we only take 50% of a player's academic credit hours, but at Ole Miss, all you have to do is take basket weaving and you can get an Ole Miss degree. Buddy, miss me with this. Miss me with this. Sark, come on, man. What? First of all, basket weaving sounds fun. That's a college course. If I saw that on the list at IU, I'd be like, hey, tell me more about this basket weaving. Don't know that you can major in it at a lot of places. If you can major at it at Ole Miss, okay, sure. Maybe Sark is actually helping Ole Miss by pointing out that you can major in basket weaving or whatever. You know what nobody wants to hear, Will? Recruiting hurdles for the University of Texas. From the coach.
Budget cuts. We went from Lambos down to Aston Martins.
Buddy, the coach on an 8-figure salary making this claim. It's like hearing Richie Rich complain that his house is too big for hide and seek. Come on. But the McDonald's in Richie Rich's house, I still think about that. Huge part of my childhood. I watched that movie just for the McDonald's in Richie Rich's house. If you know, you know. We're done talking about everyone like they're a student athlete. So why are we making arguments from 1995? Why are we doing this? Nobody wants to hear the program that recruits at a top 5 level like Texas does, saying that it has it harder than Ole Miss, who, by the way, Lane just said that Ole Miss actually had it tougher because of all of these racial issues that have prevented them from being able to get elite recruits. So which is it? Like, it's coming from both sides here. And for it to come from Texas, of all places, and for Ole Miss to catch a stray from them, even caught a stray from John Summerall, who at one point we're thinking, hey, John Summerall maybe going to replace Lane Kiffin in Ole Miss. Is that going to happen? He quote tweeted the On3 tweet, which had the aforementioned quote via Brett McMurphy, and said, quote, grateful to be at a top 10 public university that also offers advanced basket weaving. Anybody else?
That's the flagship, baby.
Anybody else want to throw something in there? Will, you got anything you don't like about Ole Miss? Pickle martinis are kind of weird. That's what I got.
Yeah, I actually just looked up over here where the basket weaving thing came from, and apparently it's very old. Apparently, there's a Joe Namath quote about this from back in the day. Somebody asked him if he majored in basket weaving at Alabama, and he said, "No, that class was all filled up, but I found an easier one, journalism." That's hard.
That's rude.
Though the journalist asked him if he majored at basket weaving, he tried to dump on his education, and he fired back at him. So yeah, I guess basket weaving has been around. Me and my boys used to joke about that, but it felt very millennial. So. Shout out to Sark for trying to throw a little dagger in there.
Yeah, just why not? And look, if you're an Ole Miss fan this week, you're saying rent-free, buddy. Rent-free Sark, rent-free Kiffin, rent-free Summerall, all you. I do think it's ironic that the coaches at LSU and Texas both took pretty calculated shots at Ole Miss after Ole Miss, not sure if you heard this, but had its best season of the post-integration era. Yes, I said that on purpose. That's not happening if Ole Miss is still going 5-7 with Matt Luke. And if you disagree with that, you're flat wrong. Okay. It's just not. It's the program that just went further than any SEC team in the postseason and then found a way to kind of just scoot around the NCAA and get its star quarterback to return. If you don't think that upsets some of the halves in college football, you're crazy. It's not to say that they all of a sudden feel threatened and that the only way to even the score is to say bad things about Ole Miss. But if there's a way to take shots, clearly they're willing to do so right now. Ole Miss was 20 seconds from a national title berth with a roster that was 21st in the talent composite rankings, which are losing their significance because of the continued reliance on the portal. But that was just ahead of the likes of Mizzou, Arkansas, and Mississippi State. Contrary to what Lane Kiffin said, they did win plenty of portal battles with the guy who was called the Portal King. And maybe Sark, who obviously is really, really tight with Lane Kiffin, those guys go back. Maybe he waited until Lane Kiffin left to take a shot at Ole Miss. That would not surprise me at all. Obviously, Sark battled with Golding when they were both coordinators at Alabama, but different relationship there than the one that he has with Lane Kiffin. I think we can say that with certainty. Either way, though, Ole Miss, welcome. The Big Boys Club. You're part of it. This fully cements Ole Miss as a part of the Big Boys Club. Not getting to a semifinal last year, but having this type of chatter said about you in the second week of May. You know you're climbing the SEC ladder when you're getting people riled up like this before talking season even begins. It's wild to think in a week in which Ole Miss has been called a racist joke school. It's probably had more national people come to its defense than any time in recent memory. And for a sport with declining emphasis on the regular season, September 19th. Ooh, that just got even juicier for that nighttime kickoff.
I'm officially scared. I'm trying to buy my tickets like right now because
I would too.
I did. I've waited in years previous and saved money for these kickoff games, even the highly ranked one with FSU and LSU. But yeah, we need to get the boys in line here for this one.
Yeah. So between that and then October 24th, Ole Miss at Texas. Super juicy. That is. How many you're in social. How many basket related tweets are in the drafts for that Ole Miss social staff right now? The limit does not exist.
Here's the thing about the Ole Miss social staff. They are doing artistry over there that is, I think, best in maybe college football. I have such a respect for the visuals and the jokes they make at Ole Miss. And I think it's something that LSU has struggled to replicate. I don't know what the staff is like over at LSU, but it's like they can't keep up with Lane, whereas Ole Miss was kind of adding to it. And I think they're a great fit for Golding and where they're at now.
Yeah, they're going to take all the shots they can with those two games. And I look forward to that. I can't wait for Ole Miss this season. I kind of can't wait for it. And don't get it twisted. I kind of can't wait for Texas this season. I can't wait for LSU season with Lane Kiffin. All of that is very much going to be in the national spotlight. There's no doubt about it. But man, what a week, the way that this has played out for Ole Miss. And I think more people are looking at them going, buddy, why are we treating this the way that we are right now? Because there's just there is a time and a place, and it's very interesting that this right now is the time and place in history in which we're seeing all of this.
Yeah, and just one more thing on Sark. This just goes to show the levels of trolling that there are, right? Like this is a classic case where Sark should have just called Lane and said, "Hey, sort of play. What's my role here in this slander off we're doing?" Because exactly to your point, you can't call someone, easy because of academics and hard because of racism. It just doesn't fit together. So now it looks like a concentrated attack. It's like, your boys are talking about something in the group chat and one guy was doing something and then he comes back and replies and tries to get the conversation restarted. It's like, no, dude, you missed it. You got to just find another way. Or like I said, we could work together. But yeah, I think it's so funny coming from Sark. And again, Summerall is just playing the everyman thing so perfectly. So it's great to see social media literate coaches. That's one thing I am looking forward to with kind of the Sabins and such going out, even Kirby being a little bit spicy. I think that we're going to have we really need it. This is the new era.
We need it a little bit more so with the SEC. Too much of this. We get to SEC media days and Drink would take a playful shot at a coach and we'd be like, all right, that's fun that Drink likes to do that, but there's not really anything close to an heir apparent to Spurrier. Like we're not getting that anytime soon. Lane would like to think he's Spurrier. He's not quite at that level in the way in how good he is at jabs. He's good at the troll, but the jab I think is a little bit different. And I don't know how to fully explain that, but Man, I do think that all of a sudden we're now at a time in which it feels like there's more bad blood in the SEC, and that's a good thing overall. It definitely is. New rivalries are good. We certainly appreciate that. But more than anything, I think my takeaway from this week, and this probably shouldn't be the main takeaway, but it is, I'm so sick of these well-paid coaches making it seem like they have it so hard. I am so sick of it. To quote Don Draper, that's what the money's for. Like I don't want to hear it. I have no tolerance for Sark coming out and saying that. So talking about how hard it is to get into Texas when you were literally able to pluck Quinn Ewers, who admitted, yeah, that's where my resources were. And you see the parking lot that everybody has. Like, what? Come on. Like, even if you do have higher academic standards, you are not hurting for talent, and that is not the card to play at this point. And I don't really ever want to hear it from you when you're compensated as well as you are.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you just have to live in your own version of reality where you're that level of successful. I think the more of these people that we kind of hear from and talk to or whatever, it's hard to be well adjusted and get to where these people
They're
are.
so not, Will. They're so That's a
Yes.
great point, man. They're really not.
Like you gotta, if you're like playing a video game and you have your talent points, you gotta put so many points into like football and understanding cover two that like, hey, wife's birthday type stuff probably isn't exactly on the top of your radar. You have to build your character in such a way that it's not good to live in regular society to be a coach most of the time. I'm actually sad that this happened after we talked to Will Stein because I would have loved to get a 36-year-old's opinion on these kind of older gentlemen on social media because he came up with it. That's kind of the funniest part is these guys who are getting spicy on social kind of like were introduced to social by someone on their team. It's got to be interesting to be a digitally native coach and be like, are we just having like a slander off here? Can I install my offense real quick? Is that cool with y'all?
From the text chain that brought you the thought, 3 losses gets you fired. Steve Sarkisian lost 3 games last year, still employed, still making 8 figures, still recruiting against basket weaving. It's just not fair. It's just not fair, man. Ole Miss is getting too much. They're getting too many of those guys in there. It'd be nice to get a Cam Coleman. What? Oh, you did. Oh, that's right. My bad.
They sure got Quinn Ewers, arch fan, Cam Coleman. And I will say really quick, I meant to make this point earlier, but unfortunately, this makes me want to give credit to the University of Notre Dame because there is pretty clearly one place that has it worse than Texas there, and it hadn't stopped them from winning more games in the postseason than Texas.
Yeah, others have that too. Others have that too and are still demanded the same things that Texas is. That's just reality. All right. As you mentioned, let's kick it to Will Stein. By the way, I should have mentioned this before. Our Will is hopping in on some of these interviews. We're trying to figure out because obviously Will has a full-time day job, so I'd like to be able to get him on as many of these interviews as possible. But we're going to be able to have Will on a lot of these interviews moving forward. So excited to be able to add him to some of these discussions. And this was the first time we've ever had multiple Wills on the pod at the same time, which was tough to navigate for the non-Will of the group. So apologies if it's like, oh, I'm saying Will and I'm really talking to Will Stein, or Will and I'm talking to Will Ogburn. I tried to make that as clear as possible. Difficult, great discussion. Will Stein is absolutely awesome. So here is our interview with the new Kentucky coach. I'm now excited to be joined by a very special guest. It is new Kentucky coach, Will Stein. Well, I bet in some ways it doesn't feel like you're new to this with how much work you've done over the course of the last 5 months. This is supposed to be, in theory, the quiet time of year for you. But I love asking this question to first-year coaches. Over under 4.5 hours of sleep you're getting per night right now?
I'm over.
Good.
Over. Yeah. Guys, if I don't get my sleep, I am a terrible person to be around. Okay. That doesn't mean I'm sleeping in, but like we got little kids. I got a 3.5 and a 1.5. So when those little minions are down, it's time for night. You know what I'm saying? And usually that's around, if we get them down at 8:30, that's like a freaking win, right? Like the older they get, the later they're staying up. So I'm usually in bed, like sleeping by 10:30, 11. That's just kind of my natural deal. And wake up around 6 something at this time of the year and get up in here and get grinded. Our players aren't here in May. Coaches can't go on the road. So I get whatever I need to get done at this point, within those hours. And I want to be fresh. That doesn't mean I just sleep. But when I can get my sleep during this time of the year, I'm going to take advantage of it. Now in the season, Connor, yeah, 4.5 would be a great night. 5 would be a great night. But at this point in the time, I think this is a good time to recharge a little bit.
if you're not going to recharge now, you're never going to recharge.
Never.
Yeah. Get this job for you. I'm sure it was in a lot of ways a long time coming, because obviously your roots growing up in the state of Kentucky, in Louisville, but as a Kentucky football fan. But this rise for you has also been meteoric in a lot of different ways. Most dudes aren't getting an SEC head coaching job 7 years removed from being at the high school level. And I'm sure you've heard and talked about that a ton. How long ago does it feel like you were coaching Garrett Wilson at Lake Travis?
It feels like a long time ago, but it also feels like yesterday. It's like those. I still remember like the first play call was designed to go to Garrett, the first ever game I called plays against Arlington Martin up in Arlington. We didn't play at the home stadium, but we played and we ran this design like basically inside flood to him, and Hudson Card rolled out and got like a 2-yard gain. So like I remember it. And the first touchdown pass I ever called, or touchdown play I ever called, was a fade to Garrett on like an RPO inside zone fade on like the 3-yard line. So it does feel like a long time ago, but it also feels like yesterday. And my time at Lake Travis was incredible. Like I still love that place, and me and Hank Carter, the head coach, are still really dear friends. So yeah, it's gone quickly, but at the same time, it's like, man, it's like we've come so far since then. And I was in college ball for 5 years prior to Lake Travis, but those 2-year stints in high school was some of the most meaningful years of my life.
That's almost not fair, though. Goal line fade to Garrett Wilson,
No,
like
it's
as a
not
first-time
fair.
play caller. Like, you don't
Dude,
get better by doing that, probably.
he was hurt like 4 games that year, and he still had, I think, like 1,700 yards and 20 touchdowns. He didn't even play 4 games. It's like a freak.
So when you sold guys at Kentucky, either on being able to stay within the program, or you're talking to guys who are coming through the portal potentially, did you promise them all unlimited sissy cakes? Because if I'm you, like that's the move. If you want to rebuild the big blue wall, like that's just got to be a go-to in terms of the NIL
It
space
is.
for you.
Yeah, that's actually the number one line in their contract. It's the first line item was unlimited sissy cakes. So no, my mom and aunt are crushing it right now, and they are as good as advertised. I don't know if you've had one, Connor, or if
I haven't.
you haven't, and you're
Mhm.
plugging it. I appreciate that. Um, yeah, they're crushing it. They absolutely are. And I'll never forget when Brad Nessler had his first taste of a sissy cake at this production party. My neighbor was like the spotter for Brad and Gary Danielson up in the box at Otson. And so they had all the CBS crew over, and my wife actually made the orange juice cake, which is like the number one seller. It's the OG. It's it is a sissy cake. My wife made it, and I remember hearing like from the other room, "Who made this cake?" And it was Brad Nessler. I was like, "Yes, we're in." They ended up doing a spot on CBS when we were beating the crap out of Oklahoma State. And my mom was in the stands, and her phone just started buzzing, 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 buzzing. So they are that good. It's true. Sissycakes.com. You can get yours there. And my mom's gonna be super excited because hopefully she'll get some orders. They ship.
If there's ever a time for a free shout out, like that's
That's it.
exactly it. Yeah, it makes a lot
I'm
of sense.
telling you, they're crazy good.
Coach, speaking of feeding people, your offensive philosophy has been summed up by the famous video you did at UTSA called "Feed the Studs," right? And you kind of go into that video into how the studs are not just ball carriers. So on this Kentucky team, you've had some time to evaluate the roster. Who are the studs from your standpoint, and how do you feed them?
Sissy cakes. No. Yeah, it's funny because it was a whole like game planning clinic that I did for Glazier, and they obviously snipped that, and it is a definite part of our philosophy when you game plan. It's real simple. It's just a players over plays mentality. We're obviously gonna have great scheme and get our guys in positions to make plays, but I've been really good when I've had Garrett Wilson's on my team, and Bucky Irving's, and Bo Nix's, and Frank Harris, and now guys like Willie Rodriguez and Lance Hurd and Ty Bryant on defense. So some phenomenal players. They make us better coaches. So yeah, I really like our squad. I do. I think what we were able to do up front, our offensive line was really impressive to me this spring. Excited about that group, the Big Blue Wall, as it was dubbed before, and we're keeping that mantra in Coach Schlarman's name. Um, Kenny Minchie's been a great asset to us so far. Love his poise, love his accuracy, his mobility is something that I think is underrated as well. Willie Rodriguez, I think, is a definite player for us. I think he's an NFL tight end. He's as good, as any other person I've been around. Might not run as fast as Kenyon Sadiq, but in terms of an all-around player, can line up at multiple positions. He's definitely somebody that I'm excited about. I think we have some young receivers that are going to be really good players down the line. Um, yeah, and I like, guys on defense, like I mentioned, Ty Bryant, Ryan Nichols. I like Marquise, Humphrey Grace up front. Bo Barnes had a really good spring, as did Grant Gottfried. So we had definitely have pieces. We got to continue to add depth, which is why we're recruiting the way that we are. But excited about this team and this roster.
That sounds exciting. So kind of piggybacking off of that, you talked about Garrett Wilson, right? One thing we talk about on the pod is adapt or die. How coaches will kind of get stuck in their ways and try to kind of keep their system rigid, and that philosophy that you just spoke to is kind of the opposite of that, right? It's very adaptable. One question that I would have for you is, at Oregon, you guys probably had talent advantage. I'd say 10 games a year, right? How do you adapt your system to the SEC, where you're going to be facing 4 and 5 star talent every single week?
That's a great question. We definitely don't fit the players like into the system. We try to fit this system to whoever we have. So it looks different every year, and I mean, football is such a game of angles and numbers that, how do you get numbers in the run game and how do you get angles, in the run game and the pass game? So it's something schematically I think we're able to do. We utilize multiple different schemes in the run game. In 2023, we were big like GT counter GY team, inside zone. Year two was more duo and some counters. And then this past year was more outside zone, duo, and some counter bounce schemes and transportation plays. So, even though we've probably had a better talent than a lot, I think schematically we're always attacking, and able to get guys free runs, at running back where you're not even getting touched, for this first 6 yards, that makes that talent look even better. So I think with the offensive line that we have right now, I think if we can get our backs free for the first 4 or 5 yards, I think that's definitely something that's gonna, you know, say talent gap or whatever. I mean, I really like our first string guys are good. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of our depth pieces are good players. We just got to continue to build. And I don't think anybody really has as much depth as they used to. Even talking to buddies around the country, some of the top quote unquote teams that you would know from a fan don't have as much depth as they used to still. So that to me is an opportunity for us to go out there and compete and to put a great product on the field.
I've always wanted to ask you about what that first meeting with Bo Nix was like, where, for him, I'm sure he's like sitting down going, I got another new OC. Like, come on. Like, can I just have any sort of continuity? He does such great things with Kenny, obviously. And then, you guys, I'm sure kind of had to figure out each other, and then things take off. He gets to New York and has an unbelievable season. But like, did you feel like when you first met with him, this guy who's had so many things said and written about him to that point, like, did you feel like you kind of had to win him over?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, he basically interviewed me for 45 minutes on the phone. He did. He had a list of questions that he wanted answered. And yeah, but we vibed, we connected right away. And again, when you don't have an ego, like I all of us have some sort of an ego, some more than others. Uh, I want my players to play their best. And how do you do that? You got to be able to level with them. You have to have a real relationship. And if Bo Nix says he likes a play out of a certain formation, he sees it the best, he knows why, he's got great indicators in the defense, let's run it like that. Like, it's not rocket science. Like, let your quarterback go out there and run the show and call the plays that he likes. I might love a play, but if he doesn't see it the way I see it, why call it? Don't call it. Call the stuff that they like. And I've done my best coordinating and play calling when I do that. When I try to get overly schematic and overly scheming and cute or force something, it doesn't always work out the best. That's not to say that I don't know what I'm doing or my players do. It's a mentality for me, coordinators across the country, people that call it, for high level thinkers, high level players. Give them the tools and let them go out there and play football. And if you can do that, then I think guys like Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel and Frank Harris and all these guys, they shine. and just call what they're good at too. Frank Harris was a great movement pass, vertical passing game, slants, and zone read. And guess what we did? He threw for 4,000 yards, and he was Conference Player of the Year at UTSA. By not overcomplicating it, playing fast. Bo loved empty, getting empty for him. Do it. Dylan, great RPO, tempo. Do it. Dante was good under center and the gun, checks. Do it. Right? Kenny, we're learning right now what he's good at. So it's exciting to kind of build it around the quarterback and to call what they like.
You have this job because of your adaptability with quarterbacks, like you talk about. Like our Will always likes to say, like sometimes OCs just be calling plays and just like doing the thing that's really different. And if you get in your head too much about that, you just ignore like what you just talked about, the strengths of each one of your guys. What was that aha moment for you with Kenny Minchie, a guy who had very limited reps? You're probably relying a lot on word of mouth. You're doing your own digging. You knew he'd hit the portal. But like, what was that moment for you watching his game where you said, all right, that can work. I can adapt a game plan to be able to win a lot of games with him?
I think the biggest thing with successful quarterbacks, especially in college, is being able to throw on time, and accuracy in a tight window. So even though the games weren't gotta have it plays, must have calls, you can still see somebody throw on time in a college environment, in a college pocket. So when I saw that on tape, I knew, okay, this guy's he can process, he's accurate. We had a lot of conversations with Gino Gaduli and Mike Denbrock, who me and Joe Sloan both highly respect. Mike as a coordinator, play caller, Gino as a quarterback coach. So both those guys felt very confident that they could have won the same amount of games at Notre Dame last year with Kenny as they did with CJ. That's not to say that they didn't feel like CJ was the right guy for them, but just in terms of their season, how it all played out, they felt very confident in that. I call NFL scouts that go to practices and, hey, what do you think? You saw this guy live, and everybody said this guy's elite accuracy. You look at him as a leader, communicator, so he checks all the box intangible wise as well. And then just but you still don't know, and so you get him in practice and you just see the operation. And when I see a guy that can operate, meaning literally get the play in the helmet, communicate, it doesn't look rigid or like he doesn't know, it's just clean. I'm like, all right, we have something here, somebody that in the heat of a moment, hey, can like spit out a play call. We had a moment in practice where Jay called a boundary pressure. Kenny flips the pro. The Jay flips it to the field. Kenny reloads the protection back to the field and throws an in cut. Now it was incomplete, but it was like low and away from a defender. It was catchable, but just that operation and getting the ball snapped right at 1-2 seconds left on the play clock. I was like, all right, he can operate. This guy can operate. And when he gets in a huddle, very clear, concise. So that's what I love about him, and he's continuing to get better. He's not a finished product at all, but he's up here first. He leaves last. He's one of those types of guys in your locker room that you trust is going to know what to do on Saturdays.
Coach, let's talk about Will Stein, just the dude, for a second. You're 36. You're one of the youngest head coaches in SEC history. We actually just had someone on this podcast turn 36 over the weekend. So my question is for you, what are you like off the field, just like as a hang? If we're not talking football, if you're off the clock, off season, what do you like to do?
Well, number one, I like to be with my family, my wife, Darby, my two little kids. They're 3.5 and 1.5, so they are my everything. I love grilling out for them. We made chicken the other night. I do chicken steaks, can do breakfast, make pancakes, whatever. Like I love doing that for my family, spending time with them. And not just my immediate family, but even like my parents, my brothers. Love hanging out with my buddies. Shoot, man, I love just shooting the SHIT. I don't know if I can cuss on this show, but just
you're good.
Yeah, shooting the shit, being a guy. If I ever get time to play some golf, I love to do that. I love concerts. I love music. I like vacations for about 4 or 5 days, and I'm ready to get back. But my wife likes to stay for 10 days, and I'm kind of getting antsy. But yeah, I think I've been the same guy my whole life. I've feel like I was always a really good teammate and worked my ass off and yeah, just like a normal dude. Like I really am. There's not much to me. Maybe sometimes I need to get some more to me. Like, my wife wants me to be more outgoing at times, and I think I am outgoing. It's just sometimes my mind's racing and wants to, guys want to talk about politics or stuff, and all I want to talk about is some football. So when I'm around my football guys or my coaches outside the walls, it's funny because all we do is talk about football. My wife's like, "Isn't that all you guys talk about all day?" It's like, yeah, well, we're still gonna talk about it.
What else is there?
So I know there's not much else to talk about. So no, but no, I mean, I love being around my family, my kids. That's definitely number one for me.
Nothing wrong with talking some ball. Now, if you had one kind of dream concert, who would it be?
A dream concert. I'd probably have to get the band back together. I think they stopped playing when John Bonham died. But like if Led Zeppelin, if I could go back like in the late '60s and go to like a Led Zeppelin concert, that'd be freaking awesome. I also think I would have loved to go to like a prime Elvis concert. I think that would have been super cool. I mean, I've been to ZZ Top. My first concert was ZZ Top. I've been to Metallica. I've been to Godsmack. I've seen 311 like 15 times. Been to Revolution. Went to Maoli in Bend, Oregon this past year. He's a sweet artist. Been to rap concerts. I've been to country concerts. I'm going to Morgan Wallen this weekend. So I do love music. That's definitely, besides sports, music is huge. But a dream concert would probably go to like a Led Zeppelin, live when they're like at their peak, or like a prime Elvis, I think would be super cool.
Morgan Wallen,
that passes the vibe check.
That definitely does. So Morgan Wallen didn't have people walk out with him at Vegas. Are you part of this? This is coming out probably after.
I would not be asked. So I've not been asked. I think he tries to choose like an Indiana person. If it was in Lexington, I think would have a shot for sure.
Fair. Okay, speaking of Indiana, one more here before we get to some rapid fire. You've seen what it looks like up close to play against Indiana. When people say Kentucky is capable of being the next Indiana, what's your reaction to hearing a take like that?
I think they say that because Indiana, I mean, for majority of my life, if not all of my life, has been a quote unquote basketball school, and they like to say Kentucky's a basketball school. So I think that's the biggest comparison, right? I mean, and look, there's no bigger basketball fan at Kentucky than me. I mean, I'm the kid that cried every time that they lost and they didn't make the Final Four. I would be bawling my eyes out in my living room, and when they won, I would talk trash to all my Louisville buddies at school. Like that was me. So I am a giant Kentucky basketball fan, huge Mark Pope fan, like all that stuff. So I think that's where they compare us. Teams that have not quote unquote been successful. But I mean, if you look at Kentucky, even over the Stoops era, shoot, guys, they were top 10 in the country like 5 years ago, So I think it's even different than IU, I mean, I saw some stat like Power 4 wins versus ranked opponents, and I don't know what Kentucky's record was, but I see some teams on the list that are like high profile teams that were 7-25 over the last 12 years, and Kentucky's record was better than that. I mean, 2 years ago, they went to Ole Miss and beat Ole Miss, They played Georgia tight every year. Like, they should have beat Texas last year in overtime. So, like, there is a comparison, but it's really just because it's a basketball school. I mean, Indiana was the losingest program in the history of college football, turned national championship. I think Kirk Cinetti is a elite coach. Bryant Haynes, elite coach. Shanahan, elite coach. They had a fifth-year senior starting 2 years ago from Ohio U, and they just had Fernando Mendoza went number 1 overall. Like, they've evaluated great. They coach their ass off. They have great scheme. They got, like, they played better than everybody last year. They coached better than everybody. Like, they did a really, really good job, a national championship type job, and they deserved to win every single game, and they did. I mean, I don't care what you say. To win every freaking game in college football is like almost impossible. And so they did that. So credit to them. But Kentucky has had a lot of ups. You know what I'm saying? A lot of ups. And what Coach Stoops did here for Kentucky is incredible. I mean, I got so much respect for Coach Stoops and what they were able to do. So it's not that far off. I mean, Kentucky couldn't score a point. If Kentucky scored points last year, I wouldn't be here, just to be real. I'm serious. So that's where the it did. Liam goes to the back to the Bucks, and now he's the head coach of the Jacks. When Liam was here and they had Will Levis, they were pretty freaking good. Like, I don't know if anybody remembers that. So it's not like this dormant of the SEC for the last 25, 30 years. I mean, this program has had 10-win seasons recently. So it's not that far off. It's just about getting this thing going again and doing it in today's modern college football with NIL, rev share, transfer portal, and taking it all in and going and attacking it. And so sometimes you just have to there's just a change that needs to happen. And, I think that's what was happening here towards the end. And I'm thankful that they chose me to take this program and do some really cool things.
Will, you don't know that you did this, but just to put it in Kentucky terms, you hit a trifecta here for me personally. One, is an Indiana graduate. Thank you for all of that. Two, you shouted out that graphic that is actually from us at the next round. So thank you for the power conference records against AP top 25 teams of playoff era. And then you shouted out my doppelganger, Liam Cohen. So just hit on all three of those in a perfect way. And I'm just gonna take that answer and just put it in my back pocket forever. So very much appreciated on that.
I love it. I didn't know I didn't know it was graphic, but I just saw that. And I was like, where are we? I was like, I think we got like 14 wins or something. I mean, it's like, I look at some of the teams on there, it's like 6, and it's a big logo. Like what the hell? So
yeah, definitely. So I'll get you out of here in some rapid fire, just 5 questions. First thing that comes to mind. Does that work for you?
Yep.
All right. So first, what's the best thing that you've ever consumed personally at Sissy Cakes, and who made it?
Well, the orange juice cake.
So it's the most popular and it's your favorite?
Yes. Yes. And my mom or aunt or cousin probably made it. Or my wife actually knows the recipe. She didn't get it until we got married. So
it had to be passed down.
Yep.
Okay. 2, this is a sensitive subject. Were you sitting in section 128, row 13 for the Bluegrass Miracle? And either way, what were 13-year-old Will Stein's post-game emotions for that?
I wasn't in the seats. I was on the wall ready to jump on the field. So very confused was my emotions. What just happened?
So you didn't see the play happen?
No, I mean, I did, but I was just like, how? Like, why? So I was there. I was also there when we beat LSU too, when in overtime. So at Rush Field then. Yeah.
Okay, you
played. Which is funny
school.
because that was my senior year of high school. And I wanted to go to UK, and so I was there. I rushed the field there, and then like 4 months later, decided to go to Louisville.
Okay,
the Cats didn't recruit me, so I was like, all right, I'll go here.
I think you won that. You won that argument in the long term.
We're good. We're good.
Okay. Speaking of high school, you played high school baseball against one of my brother's best friends, Damon McCormick at St.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
He was a beast, dude. Well, Damon was like a beast growing up. J-Town Little League. He used to throw gas. He was like a really, really good player. Yeah. Did he play college baseball at all? I mean,
played with my brother at Valparaiso. Yeah.
I played with your brother at Valpo. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, Damon was a beast, dude.
Damon's really good dude. Really, really good dude.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a long time.
Could you have played college baseball too?
Not like probably high level. I was definitely a good player. I didn't even play my senior year. I broke my finger. Like you see my fingers like curved.
Oh.
Yeah, it's my right hand. So I did that my senior year playing football. My dad was like, oh, it's just jammed. I was like, yeah, it's just jammed. I got it x-rayed after the season. It was just like shattered on one side. I literally played the entire 7 games with it. It was brutal. So I ended up not playing my senior year. And it's kind of one of my regrets in sports was not playing baseball at Trinity my senior year. But nonetheless, everything worked out. But I think if I might have been able to play, but nothing like UK or a major Division I.
And now
it's just like I didn't play travel baseball in the summer. I mean, I was literally doing Trinity football in the summer. So it's not like I was a really good player growing up and throughout high school, but I just didn't dedicate like, hey, I'm going to be a college baseball player.
And when
I took swings though. I took swings over there the other day with the baseball team, and you can look that up. I can send you the video.
Good cuts. A lot of contact.
A lot of line drives. Yes.
Nice. Okay, so you sit down at Malone's to get a steak. How are you ordering it?
Filet medium rare. It's done.
Money in the bank. Can't argue with that. Okay. No. Last one for you, and this might be easy. It might be hard. Say something nice about Louisville.
I love going to see my mom and my family. It's I love that we can take our kids there so easily and that she can watch them while I can hang out in Lexington.
That was the layup. Yeah, that was sitting right there. You had to go in that direction. I wasn't going to make you say something nice about the program. That's okay. Will,
hey, we had a lot of good times. You know what I'm saying? Everything happens for a reason. I got hurt against Kentucky. Just do a touchdown pass. The next play, I got hurt in Commonwealth Stadium, and Teddy Bridgewater ran out on the field. And what happened? We ended up winning a lot of games. Charlie gets the Texas job. I go to Texas. I meet Jeff Traylor. Jeff hires me on after I met you. After we worked together for 2 years, I went to high school. He went with Chad Morris on that little run. Gets the UTSA job. Hires me there. We win for 2 years. Barry takes the Illinois OC job. Jeff promotes me to OC. We win. I get the Oregon job, and now I'm back in Kentucky. So everything happens for a reason, or you just do a good job where you're at, and it all happens for a reason. So we're good.
Life's got a funny way of just kind of just making you surprised at every single turn.
Yeah. Exactly.
Love it. Well, this has been great. Really appreciate it. Best of luck this season.
Thanks, Connor. Thanks, Will.
All right, well, let's close with some lad of the week. Who you got?
There were a ton of different directions I could have gone this week, but here's one that's near and dear to my heart. The NBA playoffs are at a fever pitch now. There's plenty of opportunities for slander there in the NHL. I got to go with Dylan Brooks.
I saw this.
Dylan Brooks is a generational hater in a way that I could really just aspire to be. Is Dylan Brooks a top, I don't know, 100 player in the NBA? Maybe not. Certainly not on some nights, right? But one thing he is a classic heel. And at a time where mound chargings are less common, shout out John Boyce, at a time where everybody's best friends, Dylan Brooks is really just creating hatred out of his own heart. And what he's done here, he purchased courtside tickets to watch LeBron James get swept, wearing his nicest jacket, his nicest chain, whatever it would be. And even old school guys would say, hey, that's the little, this is LeBron, the greatest player of all time. And plenty of people would have gone on here and done a whole ceremony of LeBron. Oh, man, I grew up watching you. You're 41. No, that's not what Lad of the Week is about. It's about doing what you can within your means. And for Dylan Brooks, who is an all-pro hater, I'm really proud of his efforts here. He'll never be LeBron James, but he'll be the guy that LeBron James thinks about once in a while, and that's great for him.
Do you think Mike Krzyzewski stopped Dylan Brooks as he was leaving his courtside seats and said, son, you're better than that. That's not how we behave. Do you think he said that? Coach, he just found a way into the stadium just to be able to teach the young man a lesson?
Son, players like you are why I stopped coaching basketball.
People forget he actually did that. I kind of like that Dylan Brooks is continued on this arc, as annoying as he probably is. But yeah, being there front row, just to watch him lose. I mean, it's pretty rough. It's there's the 30 for 30 on Reggie Miller against the New York Knicks. And there was what was it? They had like death. It's like the Grim Reaper sitting behind the Knicks bench, who was just like plotted there to be able to just sit and wait for their demise. That's pretty good too. Trolling is all the rage these days, but I don't know that Dylan Brooks, Dylan Brooks outside of little things like that probably is not going to be someone we're talking about 10 years from now. But you need to start doing things like this. That's how we are talking about you 10 years from now.
Yes, absolutely. And also kind of enacting or paying homage to one of my favorite memes, showing up to my greatest hater's funeral to make sure he's really dead, just to be there and take it all in. You gotta love him for that.
Going to a game of your rival to watch them lose, it's not something you can do unless you have the means. But I do think there would be a certain level of satisfaction with it. There really would be. Obviously we're talking about if your team is not playing. We're talking about strictly your goal is rooting against your rival and being there to be able to see it. I don't know that I've ever really done that. I'm trying to think of experiences in which I would have been randomly at a Packers game or a Cardinals game. Being at a Brewers game is a little bit different. They were non-threatening at a time in which I, would go to at least one Brewers game every year. But I don't think I've ever done that before. Have you?
I've done this with the Atlanta Falcons. But they really, when it wasn't new for them to be bad, like in my life, you know, like I know the Falcons have never been great, but like into the Matt Ryan era where things got bad, I mean, tickets were so cheap because nobody was going to the game. So I'd be able to have a full day, take a girl, let's go to an NFL game for $100. Just watch the Packers or whoever it would be, just cook them.
Not the team I would pick for that, but I get it. I get it from your standpoint. All right. My lead of the week is Ray Davis, the former Vandy, former Temple as well, and Kentucky star running back who is entering year 3 with the Buffalo Bills. Friend of the show. He's getting a movie made about his life. A feature film is coming that is going to be based on the life of Ray Davis. Our guy, Gary Joe Collins, pointed this out to us. Ray had, for those that know his story, a rough upbringing, him being in foster care. He had a cross-country move with parents who were incarcerated, and it was really difficult for him growing up the way that he did. Like, it's something that we've talked about on this show, and I know at times that he's been a little bit reluctant to kind of go in depth with his story. Like, I remember before we had him on, talking to Kentucky's SID, and one of the things she says, like, he's not going to want to really go down this direction. You're going to kind of have to pick your spots and just kind of feel out the situation with him, which, I was more than willing to do. It's his story, not mine. But man, I think it's really cool that he's been able to see the potential upside of something like this, and not just from a monetary standpoint, but like what his story can potentially do. Like if it's told the right way. Crossroad Productions are the ones that are going to be doing this. Breakaway Ray is the title, which is a great title. I don't know that a great title makes a great movie, but that certainly helps. Same screenwriter that did Varsity Blues. Hollywood Reporter had this story with all these details, but it's cool that he is recognized that a story that he was once, I think a little bit like, I don't want to say embarrassed, that's the wrong word, but like he didn't want to paint his parents in a negative light. And he has since, and especially as he was trying to, like reestablish a relationship with them and everything. And I know that they were able to go to games at Kentucky as well, but like seeing the potential benefits of what a kid going through struggles can become, I think will have a lot of impact. At least I hope it does, if it's done right, and can inspire a lot of kids who are maybe growing up with similar difficult circumstances. But yeah, I hope we get another great sports movie. How cool would that be if we got a great sports movie about Ray Davis? That'd be awesome. I hope it makes it to theaters and does all that. Like, I would sign me up.
That's fire. Was his nickname Breakaway Ray before this?
I don't think it was. Gosh, I used to know his nickname. His full name, if you search right now on Pro Football Reference, he's got like 5 middle names. So his nickname is not related to any of those middle names, I don't think. What's his full name? Do you have this pulled up right now?
We got a Walter in here. R.I.P. my boy. Rahman. This is a new one. R-E''MAHN. Walter Zamar. Not sure I've seen that one either. ZHAMAR. Jamar Davis. Wow, that's an all-pro name. I love that name so much.
So what his full name? Say it start to finish.
Okay. Rahman Walter Zamar Jamar Davis.
I mean, I think he should go by the full name. I think he should. I think that'd be really cool. Ray Davis is too short for a name that's actually that long. He's like, let's consolidate it to the smallest possible name that it can be.
It's like one of those art pieces that you look at it from one thing and it's 2-dimensional, another perspective is 3-dimensional. It's like, my name is Ray Davis. Well, that's the most boring name of all time. But wait a minute.
Yeah, definitely. Will, what was the last great sports movie that you saw?
Oh man, I really do not go out of my way. I mean, do we count the F1 movie? I don't know if that's like that's a racing movie. But yeah, I don't really go out of my way to watch like sports movies. I watch so much sports that if I'm gonna watch a movie, like there's gotta be some dragons and warlocks in there or something, or it's gotta be something that's just different. Because I'm like, well, this is just, I could just watch ball at this point, Sports
documentaries have kind of taken the place of sports movies. Bill Simmons has talked about that a lot, like why sports movies aren't made nearly as much anymore. I thought Air was pretty good. I thought King Richard also. And then Hustle, the Adam Sandler movie. All those were like
Hustle and Air were both really good. You're right. Yeah.
Like solid movies I would rewatch. I think I saw King Richard twice, both on a plane. I don't know how that's possible, but all those were like good, solid movies. We've kind of been lacking for a sports movie that we will be talking about decades from now. I feel like it's been a minute for that. And for those who grew up in the 90s with all of those great sports movies, sometimes you'll see that'll come across on my feed, which my feed is now just all nostalgia because that's like all Instagram is these days. But like, weren't the 90s incredible? We get it. There's just like so much of that of look at all these great sports movies that came out in a 5-year stretch. And it's true. It's entirely true. And we're not just romanticizing. Like they are movies that are more rewatchable than the ones that we currently watch now. But yeah, hopefully the Ray Davis movie, Breakaway Ray, it enters the great sports movie conversation. I'd be here for it.
Yeah, and I think part of that too is like, some of the stories that have come out after about, the Rudies, the Blind Sides, where it's like, hey, this isn't exactly like real. I mean,
dude, the Blind Side doc that I saw on HBO Max was not good. It wasn't, but it was also like it accomplished two things. It made me and obviously there's been a lot of coverage on the Michael Orr, like that whole breakup with the Tui family, how awkward all that stuff is. But the documentary was both not good because it didn't even get Michael Orr on it. It didn't get anyone from the Tui family on it, which, come on, what are we doing here? And it also made me feel worse about watching that movie. So congratulations, you did your job, I guess. I came away from that being like, I kind of wish I just didn't watch this. Not that I want to just have my head in the sand and be like, this is exactly how it happened. It's good to know the truth of things like that. But I don't know. It didn't make me feel particularly good watching it.
I will refrain from any jokes about the Blind Side on this, the week of Lane Kiffin calling out Ole Miss again. But that being said, I think that this is an opportunity, to your point about, with the subject being involved in it, to really tell the story accurately, which I'm sure is not what happened with Michael Orr. Like, I'm sure they were like, all right, Michael, tell us exactly what happened here, brother. We're going to make a great, good, wholesome, accurate movie. So I think you're right. And maybe documentaries influencing like sports narratives made things better because it's like, yeah, you don't have to ask, like, is this real? And this is a real story. To your point, it's really cool. There's a lot to be taken from it. So good for our guy, Breakaway Ray.
I would love to be part of a sports documentary one day, of producing it, helping write it, figuring out some of the pieces that go into it. That's like a career bucket list goal for me. Have not made any recent progress on that. Stay tuned. Never know.
You're going to get a call from me when you're like 60. And you're like, hey, dust it off, man. It's time to go. We're doing one on the Canton Baseball Hall of Fame. You're in it.
Canton?
Nope. Where's baseball?
Baseball's Cooperstown.
See, that's why you got to be in the documentary, brother.
That's where we got that bad boy right there. I know, by the way, I said Billy Williams, my lithograph, was going to be replaced potentially. It is not. We do have some IU love up there. Can the people see it? I'm going to tilt my screen a little bit. Yeah, YouTube audience. There you go. There you go. We got a little.
Look at that, man.
Yeah. We had to document 16-0. Had to document it, so we were able to do that. Email us. You got any opinions from the show today? Did we perhaps strike a nerve with our Lane Kiffin takes? Email us, theogkickoff@gmail.com. Again, please lead with your caffeine intake. We want all of those takes on all things caffeine. If you have not, leave us a 5-star review. Subscribe to The Next Round as well as the OG Kickoff on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter @CJ O'Gara, @GoSoHard. Thanks, guys. Talk soon.